Welcome to Veterans Voices, Best of 2025 show. I'm your host, Joshua Zebley, and my co-host is Buck Carmichael. In 2025, we had 11 amazing shows with a variety of topics, and today we're going to take a look at that. Buck has agreed to join me, and you'll see Buck on a lot of the shows. Let's take a look at January. In January, we talked about service-connected disability, which is the core function of our office and all of county veteran service offices. Let's take a look. Here is a service-connected disability. You're going to see it on the screen here. So service-connected disability is a disability that was caused by or aggravated by military service. You need a current diagnosis, you need evidence that something happened in service. Medical nexus equals service-connected disability. So I'm going to have Buck and Adam get really deep into this so everyone understands what that is. And I'm going to start with you, Buck.
Sure. And, I like to, when I'm meeting with veterans from our office here in Contra, Costa County, flip it around. It's a disability that was caused by service. And the VA really makes it very clear what they're looking for to establish a service-connected disability. And the first thing is something going on right now, a current diagnosed disability. And that's where I like to always begin when I speak with my clients or veterans that I'm working with. The second thing is something tangible that we can point to in service, and that can be an injury, an accident, an exposure, but something that's tangible that we can point to that happened in service. And then the third thing is a medical nexus or an opinion from a doctor that joins the current diagnosis with what happened in service.
The way you explained it, can you say it again? You kind of explained it backwards, but it made sense. I want to make sure everybody heard that.
Sure. So I always begin with that current diagnosis.
Okay, that's the most important thing. If it doesn't bother you now, then you don't have a current diagnosis, right?
Right. And it also, when you go and get that diagnosis, it also establishes some treatment for it too, that you can point to and say, hey, this is what's going on currently. And that's really what the VA is looking for. They aren't going to look at something that's not even considered as a disability.
Okay.
Can I add to this, Buck? Everything you said is spot on. A lot of veterans come in and say, I want to file a claim, right? And they've never been to a doctor to give them that current diagnosis. So if you're watching this right now and you are a veteran, we will always encourage you, go to your doctor and talk about the conditions that are affecting you. Do that now, do that today. And if you don't have a doctor, then you can come into your CVSO and we can actually help you enroll with the VA for your health care.
Adam, thank you.
And to add on to that,
go ahead.
The way I always like to explain it to those who might be confused is to look at it as a workers' compensation claim for things that happened while you were in the service. And some of the struggles that happen with this is that we are, and oftentimes we're trying to prove this incident or this injury that happened many years ago. So the better we can establish that evidence, that diagnosis and that medical nexus, the better the claim will be.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about what evidence do you need?
Sure, and really, if you don't have that diagnosis, the VA provides a tool for a veteran. If you're watching this right now and you're thinking, hey, my knee hurts, my back hurts, they provide a tool, something called an intent to file that you can put on with the VA. It bookmarks the date, and it allows you a full year to go back and actually, gather up whatever evidence you might need. And the evidence that a veteran should be looking for before filing a claim is that current diagnosed disability with treatment, something that happened in service. And that's a big question there too. I talk to a lot of veterans who say, I hurt myself, but I didn't go in and get treatment for service. And that can be a hindrance in establishing a disability. If we can refer back to slide 1, I really think of it as that algebra equation. Mm-hmm. If you can fill in the blanks on each one of those, what the VA is looking for, you give yourself the best chance at establishing that service-connected disability. So if you don't have a current diagnosis, that's something you should be looking for. If you don't have service treatment records that would support you being seen by a doctor while you're in service, it's important that you provide a personal statement regarding what happened in service, or someone that you served with may be able to provide something called a buddy statement within the VA that corroborates that statement as well. But what we're really looking to do is establish all three of those variables in the equation. And during that year time frame, when a veteran establishes that intent to file, they have that year to go ahead and get all three things that are needed.
So that was January, and January really set the stage for the rest of the year, because we were going to talk about, what are the benefits available to you when you become service connected. And I want to thank Adam French from Riverside for joining us. He has a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience. It was great to have you and him together. I was like, look at these guys at work. It was pretty amazing.
Well, and it's always weird to look at yourself on TV too, right? But I think it was a very relevant topic, and probably the biggest thing that brings veterans into our office and how we're able to help veterans is establishing a service-connected disability, because there are other benefits that can be obtained with that service-connected disability. In February, we did tackle a little bit more of a heavy topic, and we talked about mental health and suicide prevention within veterans. And fortunately, we had Jacob Norotsky. He came on and was able to talk about his military experience and some of the mental health challenges that he had once he got out of the military. Let's take a look.
Jacob, we're going to start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your military career and your struggle since?
Yeah, I think I have a story that's mirrored by a lot of folks. I spent most of my adult life serving in the United States Army. Most of that hanging out the side of a UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter. And when life is going, 150 miles an hour every day, all the time, you get used to it. You learn to compartmentalize. You learn to keep your head in the game. And a large majority of the time I spent in the military was spent downrange. We call it downrange, or deployed in Iraq and other places. And I think that there's a lot of things that you see, and there's a lot of moments that you're part of and experiences that you hope end when the experience ends, but they don't. They come home with you. And for me, 2007, 2008 in Iraq, during the surge, specifically Operation Iron Harvest and some of the other missions that we did, there's a lot of pieces, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things that you're part of. I can remember January 16th, 2008. That will always stick out in my mind. And middle of the night, it's like 4:30 in the morning. Our aircraft's got, we would later find out, 37 rounds through the aircraft, including the tail rotor, one of the engines, radios, doors, shoot through our helmets. We're out of ammo. We're in a bad spot. And we've got a squad of guys below us on the ground, and most of them are wounded or already gone. And moments like that they imprint on your mind. And I look a few years later, coming home and getting out of the military, trying to find some semblance of normalcy, moving to Auburn, Alabama, War Eagle, got to put it out there, y'all. Had an opportunity to learn how to fly airplanes in flight school here at Auburn, and had opportunity to teach high school and be a high school football coach and so many other things. And all the time I'm carrying these experiences, these memories of these things that happened. And so like I said, for so many guys, the story winds up being the same. Just know that you're not alone. And it's a lot more common than we like to let on.
And a big thank you for Jacob for joining us and tackling, something that's very hard to share among veterans. And hopefully his story is out there and will help empower other veterans to share their story and seek mental health treatment when they need it as well.
So mental health and suicide prevention is extremely important to all VSOs and all veteran service providers. It's one of those ones that it's hard for us to talk about, right? But that's our job. So again, like you said, thanks Jacob and the men and women veterans who joined us on the show to talk about that. In March, we talked about discharge upgrades. So this is a process where you received a less than honorable discharge, right? We're going to talk about that for about an hour in that show, and I think it's important because there's a large variety. Let's take a look at March discharge upgrades.
I think a lot of veterans really want to know, you get out, you get a specific character of discharge. Why should you be able to change that after it's all said and done?
That's a great place to start. So I think of it as two main pieces. One, the military can make mistakes. And that's a good reason to have a process where someone can review the discharge after the fact. And the second major reason is because there are circumstances and events that may not come up during the discharge process for a service member that might not be a part of the conversation or even understood at the time. But after the fact, that might be something that the veteran can talk about, can share, and it might be relevant to the misconduct in their record or the reason that they got a particular discharge status. And so again, it's an opportunity to have that conversation when there's more information, more context. And as an example, perhaps someone developed a mental health condition in service. They were unaware of that at the time. They didn't have a diagnosis. They didn't have the terminology to have a conversation about that. And maybe after service, they were able to access resources to learn more about that and better understand, the behavior in service that may have been understood as misconduct at the time.
Yeah, and I think like Deepa was mentioning, sort of the evolution of the mental health, or our understanding of mental health has changed so significantly. So when you're looking at veterans who may have served prior to 9/11, there really wasn't a lot known about post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's not really until later that we begin to understand sort of the impact that can have, the impact that traumatic brain injury can have. And it's even later, back down to 2009, where the military actually starts screening people appropriately for those conditions. So you've got generations of service members who may very well have been suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder or traumatic brain injury who had no idea that was their diagnosis or their condition at the time. And it may take decades before they fully understand the ways that their behavior in service is connected to those conditions.
Wow,
Yeah.
Jane, you're working with Legal Aid of Sonoma County, and I'm sure meeting with veterans daily, if not weekly. You're getting to hear some of the stories that veterans are coming to you with. I'm wondering, when you first meet with a veteran, are you hearing that, hey, this is an easy process for me, I knew that I wanted to give you a call and get this settled? Or is there some hesitation that you're experiencing before you even get into the conversation with a veteran about personal shame for even having this issue that they need help with?
Yeah, there's often a lot of hesitation and uncertainty. Sadly, many veterans, especially the veterans from past eras who are older now, they don't understand or realize that there are benefits that might be available to them and what those may be and how they can access them. So they often have just assumed for many years that there's nothing they can do and they can't get any benefits, and that's the way it is.
Thank you. Discharge Upgrades is one of those things that can provide a barrier to a benefit, right? So we want to make sure that we're able to help veterans, overcome that. And then the key message is there's a lot of pro bono agencies out there that will assist with that.
And I really like what was said in that clip is the military makes mistakes just like we all do. And sometimes it's worth that review to see if that discharge, there was an error made there, and a review is good. So to get another pair of eyes and some advice on that is something I definitely recommend for those of you that has less than an honorable discharge. Take a trip into your CVSO office and see if you can get some additional advice there. In April, we shifted our focus back again to veterans benefits and focused on benefits that every veteran should know about. And fortunately, we had Maurice Delmer, the CVSO for San Francisco. He was able to join us, and he was able to talk to us about tuition fee waivers for California dependent residents. Take it away, Maurice.
Can you get us started by talking about the college tuition fee waiver? Now, again, this is not a federal benefit, right?
That's correct, Elena. The California College Fee Waiver Program is a state benefit provided by the state of California in the California Veterans and Military Code. And it's a program for the dependent. It's a benefit for the dependents of veterans, spouses and children. And it's based on it is based on the veteran's service-connected disability rating, anywhere from 0 to 100%. And it waives the tuition or fees for any in-state public institution of higher education in California. So that could be a community college, a Cal State system school, or a UC system school.
There's so much in there that we have to unpack, but I mean, any in-state college is like a big deal. Like, what about UCLA or Berkeley?
Yeah, absolutely. If the dependent is eligible based on the veteran's service-connected disability, they can get their tuition and fees waived. And there's actually two plans. Well, there's 4 plans, but we'll talk about 2 because the 2 of them are really the ones that matter for dependents of veterans, and that's Plan A and Plan B. And I'll start with Plan B because I think that's the more the one that most veteran or most dependents are eligible for. That it requires the veteran to have a less than 100% service-connected disability. Sorry, they can have 100% service-connected disability rating, but for the most part, it's veterans who have a less than 100% service-connected disability rating. The dependents are eligible for Plan B. And again, it isn't income-based. It is based on the dependent's income. So they would apply to their school, and if they get in, they could apply for the benefit through a county veteran services office, and they have to provide some documentation, including their previous year's tax return. Again, this is for the Plan B, their previous year's tax return, their birth certificate, or anything that shows they're a stepchild, or so marriage certificate, or adoption paperwork. To show that relationship to the veteran, and other documentation as well, which is the County Veteran Service Office would, of course, provide that information about what is required. And then once approved, they take the letter that is generated by the County Veteran Service Office to the school certifying official, and then the benefit is processed. The veteran does not need to be a resident of California. However, residency needs to be established. The California residency needs to be established by the student, and that's based on the school's determination, not by the CVSO or the state of California's determination. So that's an important thing to note. And then there's Plan A, and Plan A is specifically for veterans who are 100% service-connected, permanent and total, or for temporary disability, individual unemployability, TDIU, and those who passed away due to a service-connected disability or passed away in the line of duty. And this benefit is eligible. This benefit is for dependents and spouses. And I forgot to mention that Plan A is not, spouses are not eligible under Plan B, but they are eligible under Plan A. Plan A does not require an income, is not income limited, but there is an age limit for dependents of 27 years old. So there is no age limit for Plan B. So there's a lot of nuance in the overall benefit. But again, your county veteran service office would be the place to get all your questions answered about this benefit and apply for and receive your letter.
So the California tuition fee waiver. Couple different plans, can be a little bit complicated, but it's a fantastic benefit for California veterans and their dependents. It can save a lot of money on college.
It's an amazing benefit. I think that's one of the ones that we get, veterans to come into our office, and then we figure out how we can help them in other ways. In May, we talked about veteran organizations and picking which one is right for you. We had Aaron Esquire do an interview with Terry Moran, and then Robin Limo talks about the Vietnam veterans of Diablo Valley. Let's take a look.
I am Erin Esquire, Veterans Voices correspondent, and I am with Terry Moran from Vets Votes Foundation. Terry, if you can please tell us a little bit about Vets Votes and its mission.
Erin, well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity for us to get our message out to your viewers. Really appreciate it. Vets Votes is a 501c3 nonprofit based in Richmond, California. I founded it 10 years ago by just taking veteran sailing on my own boat. I'm a 28-year Navy veteran and was suffering from the effects of my service. Sailing has been a big part of my life all throughout. And I connected the dots early on that a lot of the times that I needed healing were provided by being on the water. So fast forward to today, we have a network of 8 boats here in the Bay Area. We're expanding outwards into San Diego, as well as in the Midwest. We're adopting a subscription-based program where volunteer boat owners can take veterans out sailing once they've been screened and meet certain criteria. And we also have a flagship that we're restoring here in Richmond, a 68-foot wooden boat that was built in England and saw service in World War II. So the boat herself is a veteran, and we provide volunteer work days, training, not just in sailing, but also in restoring fine, beautiful wooden boats. So we thank you for the time. I hope you'll give our recall information. We'd love to get in touch with anybody who'd like to refer a veteran that needs some community. And community on the water is often the best thing. These veterans who've never been on the water, you see them light up, and by the end of the day, they're fast friends with the others. So it's wonderful to see.
This is wonderful. Yes, we thank you for you sharing about your organization and being a part of Veterans Voices.
Robin, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Josh.
Can you tell us a little bit about Vietnam veterans of Diablo Valley?
Yeah, I sure can. We're affectionately known as the old guys that have fun.
Okay.
And it was actually formed back in 1991 with a group of 5 or 6 guys that decided they wanted to go to Tony Roma's and have barbecue ribs or go out and have lunch in the park, a cup of coffee. And it started off as a purely social group that where Vietnam veterans felt safe. They could talk about whatever they wanted to talk about. It evolved into, hey, we ought to get to be a 501k, but it's still basically a social network. And it's designed to improve the image of Vietnam veterans who kind of really suffer through kind of the most unpopular conflict the United States has ever been in. So we work on trying to improve that image and also really trying to give back to the community and serve the community in a lot of different ways.
Well, I think you know that Vietnam Veterans of Diablo Valley is very near and dear to this show, Veterans Voices. We had the late Stephen Burchek was the executive producer on the show for many years. So you all are very, close to our heart. Thank you for being here, Robin.
Thank you so
And
much.
Robin, can you share a little bit about the requirements for joining the Vietnam Veterans of Diablo Valley group?
Yeah, it's really a simple requirement. You have to be a Vietnam combat war veteran or a Vietnam era veteran. And the thing that I've just been with this organization for about a year and a half. So I'm kind of like the rest of the veterans. I hadn't talked about being in Vietnam for 56 years. I hadn't taken any benefits. I didn't want any part of it at all. It's funny, my wife and 3 adult sons and 1 adult daughter know I'm a Vietnam veteran, but they have no idea what I did. And that's pretty common. So what I get from Vietnam era veterans is they're almost apologetic. They say, geez, I was in the service during that time, but I didn't get to go to Vietnam. And my answer is, hey, you could have easily gone anytime you were in the military. So, don't apologize for that. We're a special group. So.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned you didn't join until Vietnam, because I think I saw you the first time you were there about a year and a half ago.
Met on a park bench.
Who got to you that said, Robin needed to check out the Vietnam Veterans of Diablo Valley? How did that happen?
I don't really recall who told me about it. It might have been somebody at one of the high school's dads that knew I was a veteran. But it was during COVID, and there was no, meeting. We had virtual meetings. So I thought to myself, what a safe way. I hadn't talked about it for 56 years. I'm going to get on and I'll join the meetings and see if I like these people, if it's for me. And then when COVID got over, I went to the first dinner. I thought, this is pretty neat. And I've gone to coffee talks at the Memorial Building, and it has been the greatest thing that's happened to me, to be honest with you. I find it to be a safe place to be, healing, closure, and just fun. I get up with a purpose now. I got things to do. I'm on the board of directors. I love every minute of what I'm doing.
This was one of my favorite shows. It really stresses the importance of being part of an organization and what they can do for you. You heard Robin, he hasn't talked to anybody about Vietnam in 50 years.
And fortunately, here in Contra Costa County, we have a lot of veteran service organizations, and they have a lot of passion to help veterans. And for those that join these organizations, it really does provide that camaraderie that they may lose getting out of the military. In June, we decided to focus on California benefits for those that live in California, the veterans here. We had Brad Pedersen come in from California Home Loans to talk about some of the benefits for those looking to purchase a house.
Brad, can just tell us who can apply for a CalVet home loan? We'll start there.
That's a great start. So the CalVet home loan program is over 100 years old. And when it started, it was a thank you to World War I veterans coming home. So originally, it was just for veterans who entered their service life from California. But today, we've changed all that. Today, anyone who's currently active duty, currently serving anywhere in the world, anyone who entered service anywhere in the world, everybody can apply for the loan. And I highly suggest you do. They have to live in California within 60 days of getting their acceptance for a home and moving in, closing escrow. So everybody can apply. Please don't exclude yourself.
Thank you.
That's exciting, and congratulations on the 100-year history. That is amazing, and it's a real testament to how important this benefit has been to veterans securing home ownership in California, as Josh says, one of the most expensive states to live in, but don't get discouraged. So help me understand, Brad, what's the difference between the CalVet home loan and I always hear about the VA home loan? What's the difference there?
Great question. So actually, I get this question every week over and over, and I kind of came up with a pat answer that I teach people. Whenever I try to talk about the two different programs, I do it this way. I hold up a hand and I say, look, when we're talking about the federal VA home loan, it's kind of important that you understand federal VA doesn't actually loan the money. What federal VA does, Elena, is they issue this thing called a loan guarantee, which basically says to the bank making the loan or the lender, if the veteran defaults, they will protect the first 25% of loss. That makes that a very powerful loan. Mm-hmm. Now, CalVet is actually the state of California acting as a lender, and we have many different types of loans. We do farm loans, we do construction loans, we do loans for people buying a home that maybe needs a new roof. We have all kinds of programs, but my favorite program is when we actually take your federal VA home loan benefit and I fund it through the state of California. When I do that, something happens that no other lender can do. You get your federal benefits and your state benefits put together into one loan. It just makes it super powerful and flexible.
Amazing.
Thank you, Brad. So just to go on with the theme, homes are expensive in California. Is there limits of how much a loan can actually be in California? Or what's CalVet do with that?
So it's another great question. So actually, VA a few years back removed their loan limits. I mean, technically, you could get a $50 billion VA home loan, but you can't find a lender who will make that loan. So every lender will have a limit on how much they'll loan out. Now, CalVet is aware of the prices in California, trust me. We actually will loan up to $1 million to a qualified veteran. You got to qualify anywhere in the state. But if you go into higher cost counties like San Francisco, Orange County, Los Angeles, we will loan up to $1.5 million. So with those prices, we're able to get a lot of veterans into homes when they didn't think they had a chance if they were looking at higher price properties. You do have to qualify, but I mean, technically a $1.5 million loan with zero down is pretty good.
Big thank you to Brad, who is so passionate about home loans, working for CalVet. helps a lot of veterans, and he clearly explained the difference between that federal benefit and a state benefit, which is exclusive to Californians.
I love Brad. We call him Uncle Brad at CalVet, and CalVet you can call and say, I'm not ready to buy a home yet, but how do I get prepared? So I think I want to make sure everyone understands that. They don't make commission on the loans. That's something they can help you with. So loved having Brad on. In July, we went to something, a lot more serious, probably about as serious as you could be, the suicide prevention for women veterans. And we were lucky to have Deborah Taylor and Brianna Belcher come talk about female suicide and the difference between male and female, and the lack of resources for female. Let's take a look. So how is suicide and suicide prevention unique for women and women veterans? If you could start, Deborah, that'd be great.
Sure. So female veterans, as we know, are not the majority in the population. So they're the minority in the veterans or in the military. When they discharge, they're not a huge population. So unfortunately, there aren't a lot of resources for them. And that has been one of the biggest issues, is the resources upon discharge. A female veteran can serve in the military for 10, 15 years and then discharge, become a veteran, and then want to start a family. And unfortunately, those are services that just are not available everywhere for female veterans. And we've also realized that the newest issue that they're facing is homelessness. And that's just a big issue that we're trying to address and find areas that we can provide those types of resources, as well as housing that's just for female veterans.
Thanks, Deborah. And so you're talking about one of the differences being that there's just a lower amount of resources out there generally for women who are either experiencing suicidal ideation or just trying to navigate life after the military. And that's such a great point that you're making. And to Josh's point earlier, we're talking about suicide prevention today, so there's a lot that's going to come up. Some other things that might come up, though, is things like military sexual trauma. So I just also wanted to warn our viewers at home that these conversations might touch on that too. Bree, I want to go back to Josh's question and ask you, a part of it that we didn't cover is Deborah talked about suicide prevention being a little different for women veterans. How does the actual experience of suicidal attempts or suicidal ideations, do you think there's a difference there between women veterans and male veterans?
I do. It seems like males use firearms more often. Just being a suicide prevention coordinator, when we ask them, do they have a suicidal plan or attempts, it seems that firearms are the more aggressive way to attempt, compared to women. They might do like overdose or cutting themselves as well. But also to speak what Deborah has said about it's been a male-dominant environment. I think a lot of people are afraid to report as well. So it's also underreported too for like MST. And there's a hierarchy and power imbalances within that as well too.
Yeah, I've heard that. So thank you for making that point.
And just to open it up to the panel, are there unique challenges that female veterans face during like a reintegration into civilian life from military that might impact their mental and physical health?
Absolutely. I worked with a female veteran that was in the Army. She had been in for 18 years. She discharged with an honorable discharge. And I remember meeting with her and her saying, I just don't know even how to get dressed in the morning. And I thought to me, like, whoa, I thought you would be excited to not have to wear a uniform. And she said, no. And she started with her depression after she discharged because of that. So leaving the military sounds, that it wouldn't cause depression, but it does, because they're so used to that pattern, that lifestyle, and being told, what to wear. So that was really eye-opening for me, this female veteran. We ended up working with her for quite a few months and got her connected with a therapist, but that was really surprising, that just not knowing what to wear after being in the military for so long was one of her triggers. It just really caused her a lot of issues and depression.
This was definitely a very eye-opening episode for me. I think for a lot of folks watching, the military is about 18% females, and it's growing. So we need to make sure that we're letting the female veterans know that these are resources for you, and please seek help if you have any of these thoughts.
Yeah, it's so important to shed light on the underserved women veteran population and some of the unique struggles that they face when they do leave the military. So it's a difficult subject to talk about, but very important. In August, we again shifted our focus. This time we focused on housing for veterans in need, and we had a great lineup of folks. Sean Johnson from CalVet Housing joined us, with Richard Owens from Jamboree Housing from down in Orange County, and here from the Bay Area, we had J.R. Wilson from Delta Veterans Group. Let's take a look.
You may be surprised how many veterans will say that they aren't worthy of the kind of housing that's appearing, in county by county by county based on public support from the state, federal, local initiatives. So we like to try and encourage veterans to make sure that they are aware that they're worthy of this, and it's all about them, and it's why we're doing this. And so really to just uplift them in every which way that we can, so that they have the confidence to take the next steps. And and the engagement in that permanent supportive housing environment is critical, because that's how they maintain that housing. It's how they stay housed, and when they stay housed, they look forward to the rest of their lives instead of living moment to moment. And that's really that's really where progress starts happening for these veterans a lot.
Yeah, and I would say in the permanent supportive housing realm, one of our biggest goals is collaboration and coordination, right? Like at Jamboree, we realize that we're not going to be able to solve everyone's problem, but there are enough community providers and there's enough support at the VA that if we bring all these teams together and we collaborate and we find a comprehensive solution, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. Every vet is unique, and so we need to meet each veteran where they are at and help them individually navigate the system. And the VA system is such it's so broad. It's very overwhelming to try to navigate it. And so we have team members who are helping walk them through the process. And then there are some who there may be a stigma with the VA with some of their previous experiences. And so we help to kind of lower that stigma, to reintroduce them, to help them understand that what they may not have been eligible for before, they can receive help for it now. And it really is about coordination and collaboration and helping them to maintain and retain that housing. I always say part of the easiest job sometimes is getting them the housing opportunity. The hardest job is keeping them housed. And so that's where we take a team approach to make sure that it's not just on our team, but we look at the community to really bring them in to help these veterans.
I think it's interesting too to note that we're all veterans, right? So we continued our service, which has helped us in our recovery from service.
How would a veteran access the core outreach services in Contra Costa County?
So there's one main way that we get calls directly from veterans would be through 211 option 3, and then they would get a team dispatched to wherever their location is. We can come into contact with them organically on the streets, or if they don't want to request services for themselves, their family members or a service provider can also call in 211 option 3 to access services for them.
And how quickly, when you start working with a veteran, are they usually able to access these services then?
So they can access core services immediately, which is, access to emergency supplies, resources for them. In general, we work very closely with the VA and Shelter Inc. and Insight, and getting them connected. If they're a veteran, and they want the services, we'll make the call that day and have something set up within a day or two usually. So it doesn't take long at all. Our teams work really closely together, and that has been an amazing collaboration for us.
It sounds like a lot of collaboration is going on then. So it's not just necessarily helping a veteran, but it's also coordinating with other community providers to make sure that they, holistically are being helped.
Yeah, that's supportive services. That's the most important, right? Because there's a reason that this veteran potentially is homeless, and we need to address all of those, is what you're saying. And I think that you guys are doing that. I'm so impressed by the 22 field teams. I don't know how many are part of each team, but they're getting in their cars and driving out, every day to go actively seek homeless individuals or unhoused individuals, not just veterans. That's amazing to me. And you said 478 HUD VASH vouchers that we have
currently active being utilized. So that means, 478 veteran households that are housed utilizing that voucher resource.
That show had a lot of great information. We had some great guests on it, and I really latched on to what Richard was talking about with the coordination and collaboration. A lot of these organizations work with each other to help those veterans.
That's the most important thing. You're talking about wraparound services, a partnership. You can't do it all from, by yourself. We got some that'll house you, some that'll help you with your mental health. That's what it's all about in the community. In September, we talked about navigating the Board of Veteran Appeals, and I think a lot of veterans don't know what that is, but luckily we had two experts. If you talk about experts, Jim Radonja and Zime Raimundo talk about navigating the Board of Veterans Appeals. Let's take a look.
Oftentimes I'm talking to a veteran across the table, and that's the discussion. I filed my claim, I have the denial letter here, what am I going to do? And really it comes down to there's three options. You can introduce new evidence to the VA, ask them to reconsider that decision. You can point out a clear and unmistakable error and ask for a higher level review. But then there's an option where you take it away from the VA and you're asking the Board of Veterans Appeals to take a look at it. And that's what we're going to really dig into today. What are those steps? What does that look like for a veteran who doesn't have that type of experience? So I'll start with Jim. Jim, if you're talking to a veteran for a first time, and they're coming in for advice, what are you saying when they say, "Hey, I got a denial. I want to appeal this"?
So what we look at first is getting the veteran the benefits that they're entitled to as quickly as possible. So we're going to look at it first from the approach of what we call the regional office level. And that would be, as you mentioned, perhaps doing a higher level review or a supplemental claim. And those generally move pretty quickly through the system and can take a matter of months. If it gets to the point where it's continuously being denied at that level, or it's a particularly complex case, we may look at moving to the next level, which is the Board of Veterans Appeals. The upside to the Board of Veterans Appeals is that the staff there is much more experienced. The staff at the regional office level is typically VSRs, Veteran Service Representatives, raters, generally are not legally trained. At the Board of Veterans Appeals, it's only attorneys and judges. So they're all legally trained. They're all, went to law school and so on. So they're better able to understand complex legal concepts and so on. So we find that at that level, generally speaking, even if you've been denied continuously at the regional office level, the Board of Veterans Appeals is a good option. You'll probably get a better decision if you have a good case. That said, the process can take a number of years. So we always try and start at the regional office level to get it moving quicker.
And I think everyone on this call knows that California Department of Veterans Affairs is the best in the nation, right? We treat our veterans with so much care and consideration here in California. So where does CalVet come into this process with the Board of Veterans Appeals? Are you representing veterans at the Board of Veterans Appeals? What's the difference if CalVet represents me versus an attorney?
Yes, CalVet does assist with the board. We do have the appeals team, and all our accredited representatives that's part of the appeals team, they do hearings. So there's usually a handoff coming from the county veteran service offices, right? When you start there, and if it's decided that the path they want to take is take it to the board, and if they choose a hearing, then at the time of the scheduled hearing, we will be the ones that will be helping them out and representing them at that point. The difference between us and accredited agents and lawyers is that state service organizations like CalVet and veteran service organizations, national service organizations like American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, they are free of charge.
The Board of Veterans Appeals, what a complex process and a ton of information that is very hard to understand, I think. But we're lucky, on that show, we had about 75 years of experience there. Definitely reach out to CalVet or the Eagle Law Group if you need assistance with the Board of Veterans Appeals.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Appealing a denial is such a complicated subject, and I would never recommend a veteran tackle that without a little bit of advice. So if you're contemplating that, definitely reach out to your CVSO so that we can assist you with something like that. In October, we turned our focus to veteran entrepreneurs. We had a lot of guests: Ikram Mansouri from Vets in Tech, Demisha Swanson, Tracy Cole, and Daniel Bates, all from CalVet, Disabled Veterans American Business Enterprise. They were able to present a lot of information about their unique experience with veteran entrepreneurs and what it's like working with them and what inspires them about their work. Let's take a look.
I want to welcome back all of our guests. So we have Daniel, Tracy, Demisha, and Ikram. What a great panel you guys have provided so far. I mean, I can tell you all have a lot of passion in what you do. Really appreciate that. And you've all been doing this for a number of years. So that really tells me that you are inspired by what you do. So I want to lead with that question. Ikram, I want to start with you because I feel like we got cut a little short, but I'm glad you're able to join us. What inspires you about the work that you do?
I mean, today's veteran is less than 1%. I believe it's around 0.7. So we're rare and we volunteer to serve our country. And I find that beyond patriotic, and it's a community that I love and I want to continue to support, and especially the spouses and our families.
Thank you so much. Demisha, how about you?
What inspires me is, as you can see how bright my hair is, it's the hope that comes out, because if you start a business, you don't have to worry about getting all the instructions from the bosses and the higher ups. I shouldn't say that because I work for the state, but you are the one that's in charge of your future. You're the one that gets to dictate how much you make, what do you do, what makes you happy. You find skills that you've learned while you were in the service, bring them to the forefront. And you don't have to do too much of the bureaucracy thing. You just start a business, come up with a concept, get your information out there, promote it, start finding out about the different laws and things you have to do for business licenses and different permits. But in the meantime, you can get your family going and growing and thriving the way that you want it to on your own time. So that's why I love helping small businesses. And as a serial entrepreneur myself, I jump into so many different passions. It's amazing. But I love that hope, that open wide, that you can do what you want to do and the sky's the limit.
Thank you. And your boss probably watching later. That's okay.
I know.
That's okay. Tracy, so how about you, Tracy? What inspires you about what you do?
I love to see when a light bulb goes off in the head of an aspiring entrepreneur. It's amazing that I can really do this, and I have the resources and tools available to me to push me farther. And I also have someone I can lean on with any of the advisors we have or all the people we can connect them to. And just seeing the passion, they get their homework done. They want to move forward, and I just want to ride that journey with them. It's an amazing feeling. Especially when they give you a hug and you see them at an event. They're like, oh, I couldn't have done it without you. I love the hugs.
And you're unique. I don't know if the rest of you get too much, but Tracy, you actually talk to them while they're still service members, and some of you might as well, but a lot of your outreach is done, at Camp Pendleton right down there, and probably the 32nd Street Naval Station. So they're having all kinds of ideas of what, their imagination is probably going wild. So that's really cool.
It is, and I love that. Bring all your ideas. Let's work through what they are. And of course, we use lean methodologies, as we know in Silicon Valley, right? And so help them start and really look at these ideas, do some research on them, and then figure out where is that starting point? What idea are they going to go with? And once they figure out that idea and they're ready to go, it's amazing.
That's really cool. Daniel, I saved you for last year. What inspires you about the work you do with veteran businesses and veterans in general?
It's not, I would say my motivation, what inspires me for this position isn't so much the veteran aspect, it's more of the State Department aspects. Veterans, I hope you're aware there are departments and advocates and procurement staff that are thriving and they search for you daily and they want to meet and succeed their 3% goal. So that's what inspires me is the veterans have the passion for the business and their avenues of how they want to make income. And another aspect is that on the flip side, there are departments and private organizations that want to spend money with the veteran organizations. So that's what inspires me is it's a full circle. It's not just one-sided, the veterans going for business. It's the businesses are also searching for the veterans.
And Josh, I can only imagine some of the stresses that are associated with trying to start your own business. So it's just amazing to have such a passionate team that are available to veterans to kind of help them walk through the more difficult process of starting that business.
I think it's definitely stressful, but you know, somebody's not telling you what to do. You got to figure it out for yourself, and I think veterans are pretty good at that. In November, I had the privilege of celebrating the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II at a Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors celebration. Let's take a look at that. We gather today as a grateful nation, bound not just by ceremony, but by the shared heartbeat of remembrance, reflection, and reverence. In every corner of this land, from quiet towns to bustling cities, we pause with solemn purpose to honor the brave souls who wore the uniform during World War II, and to remember the immense price they paid for the freedoms we hold dear. These were ordinary men and women who answered an extraordinary call. They left behind everything they knew, their families, their dreams, their youth, and they stepped into the unknown, driven by a fierce love for country. They stormed beaches under fire, flew through skies thick with danger, and endured the harshest conditions with unwavering resolve. Many never came home, and those who did carry the weight of the war in their hearts for the rest of their lives. Their courage was not just in battle, it was in the quiet moments too, in the letters they wrote home, unsure they'd ever return, in the friendships they forged in the foxholes, in the silent prayers they whispered before dawn. They fought not for glory, but for each other, for the hope that their children might live in a world free from tyranny. Today we do more than remember them. We feel their presence in the flag that waves above us, in the silence that falls when we speak their names. This one's appropriate right here. In the tears that well up when we think of all they gave. Their legacy is etched into the soul of this nation, and it calls for us to be better, to live with a purpose, and to never take for granted the peace they earned with their lives. Let us carry their memory forward, not just in words, but in how we live, how we serve, and how we love this country they so selfishly defended. This part's supposed to be happy right here. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine the sound of church bells ringing, confetti flying, and strangers embracing in the streets. That was the scene on VE Day and VJ Day in 1945. Victory in Europe Day, celebrated on May 8th, marked the surrender of Nazi Germany. Just a few months later, on August 15th, victory over Japan Day signaled the end of World War II entirely. These moments were more than just the conclusion of global conflict. They were a collective sigh of relief, a celebration of peace after years of sacrifice, fear, and loss. Behind every cheer was a story of sacrifice. Families had endured years of rationing, fear, and heartbreak. Soldiers had faced unimaginable horrors, and yet in that moment the world came together, not just to mark the end of the war, but to dream of peace. VE Day and VJ Day remind us that freedom is never free. They remind us that the cost of conflict, the value of unity, and the importance of remembrance. Today, as we reflect on these celebrations, let us carry forward the spirit of that moment, a world united in gratitude and determined to never forget.
Was famous, country man from out Chicago way. He had a boogie style that no one else could play. He was a diamond at his craft, but then his number came up and he was gone with the draft. He's in the army now, of Lower Emily. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. They made him blow a bugle for his Uncle Sam. It really brought him down because he could not jam. The captain seemed to understand, because the next day the cat went out and drafted a band. And now the company jumps when he was reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. A shoot, a tootly, a tooty blows the day to the bar. In boogie rhythm, can't blow a note unless the bass and guitar are playing with her. He makes company jump when he was reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. He was the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. And when he plays boogie woogie bugle, he was busy as a business bee. And when he plays, he makes the company jump A to the bar. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. Do-do-do-do-yada, doodly-yada, toot-toot, he goes at A to the bar. You can't blow a note if the bass and guitar isn't roll with him. And the company jumps when he was reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. He puts the boys to sleep with boogie every night and wakes them up the same way in the early bright. And they stamp their feet because they know face was on my gift on the beat. He really breaks it up when he was reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. And the company jumps when he was reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B.
Well, that's it. That's our 2025 recap. That show right there, November, that was a hard one. I think you could see it in the video. The World War II veterans really opened up a lot of benefits, for us and for our parents. So we're very grateful to be able to do something like that. Grateful for the county. Grateful. I didn't think we'd end the show with the Swinging Blue Stars doing a song from almost 85 years ago. So thanks for watching. We hope you've enjoyed our favorite moments of 2025. We really look forward to bringing you some new ideas in 2026. If anyone watching has any ideas for us, feel free to email us. We're easy to get a hold of. And I'll tell you how right now. For any help with veterans benefits, a county veteran service office is a great place to look. You can find us at nacvso.org. To rewatch today's episode, check back on our homepage later this week, or check your cable provider's schedule for rebroadcast times. You can also rewatch this episode and many others on our YouTube channel, Veterans Voices of Contra Costa. So be sure to subscribe. Follow the link or scan the QR code to find us on all of our social media channels. Our next show will air on Wednesday, January 14th at noon. We'll be talking about Veterans Treatment Court. You won't want to miss it. To all of our veterans and their families, thank you for serving. To all who have tuned in, thanks for watching and have a great day.